Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the channel. So today's video we're replacing the Serpentine belt tensioner, and it's this piece right here. And the reason I'm replacing this is because mine broke. Hopefully you're not in the same situation, but if you are, this video is definitely for you. If you guys are just replacing it because it's old and worn out, that's also great as well. Sometimes the little pulley right there does get kind of old, worn out, or also just this piece up here. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started with replacing this. And this is for the 2006 to 2011 Honda Civic. Alright, so the reason I'm replacing mine is because you can see right there where it is broken. This piece of metal did break off while I was trying to loosen it to get the belt back on for another project. But if your belt is already in place, you will see it sitting kind of like up above here. And it would be up on the alternator as well. So what you're going to do is use like a 19mm wrench, or you can even get a serpentine belt tool that's really thin with a little socket on it. So you can essentially reach down in here, hook on to that, and then you push it up towards like the windshield to be able to loosen it. So I'm obviously starting it with the belt already off, but if you guys do have the belt on, like I said, just loosen it, slide the belt off the alternator, and then you can pick up right here. I do want to point out, if you guys do want to pick up the new tensioner, you can actually get it on Amazon. There will be links in the description down below, so make sure you go check that out. Alright, so the official way to do this is to start off with removing the alternator, but before we do that, we're going to go ahead and remove the battery. So we're going to loosen this side right here, and then once that is loose, we're going to lift this right up and off of there, and just kind of set it off to the side any way you can. There we go. And now we can move over to the alternator. Alright, we're going to start off first with removing a lot of these connections. There is this simple little plug right here, which has a little kind of button on the back side. Make sure to take the gloves off so I can do it a little bit easier. So we're going to push in on that button, slide that connection off, and then on this back side there's like a little button you can kind of push in, and then it slides this right off of that little bracket right there. And then there's two little clips that hold this in place. So you can get in behind, push the little tabs, or you can even use like the little pry tool, get right in behind here and pop this out. And then there's another tab just like that, a little bit lower. Alright, then we can just kind of push this wire off to the side. And now we have these two connection points, which we're just going to kind of wiggle up the rubber piece off of it. You could probably even use this little pry tool carefully to raise that up. And it reveals a kind of green connection point. And then on this right side, there's going to be a little tab you can push in and then pull the whole thing up and off. And then we have this one over here, which has a little nut on it. And we're just going to go ahead and unscrew this. If you guys do want better detail on how to remove the alternator, I actually do have a separate video on that. So you guys can go check that out. I even have like a whole playlist of Honda Civic how-to videos. So if you guys are in need of some others, definitely go check those out. Alright, let's go ahead and almost drop that. Don't want to do that. There we go. Set this little nut aside. And now we can wiggle this up and off. And now we got all these connections. And we got this one little tab right here. We're actually going to push kind of outwards. And the whole thing just slides up and off. And now we can set this out of the way. And now to remove the alternator from the car itself, there's going to be a top bolt up here and then a bolt kind of lower down. So let's start with removing those two bolts, and then we can get the whole entire alternator moved out of place. Alright, so these are 10mm bolts. I'm going to go down here and remove the first one on top. Alrighty. And now let's go in there and slide this out. And that top bolt is huge. And then the bottom bolt is kind of hard to explain where it's at. My finger's right on the bottom, or right on the head of it. It's essentially directly below this little pulley right here. So I'm going to go in with a longer socket. There we go. Got it hooked in place. And this is why I actually use an extension wrench so I can get a little bit more leverage on it, because it is snug. And sometimes it's like once you break it loose, you can actually hold the socket in your hand and just unscrew it the rest of the way by hand. Alright, then sometimes if it does get a little firm, you can raise up on the alternator, because once you start loosening that bolt, it does loosen. And if it starts to fall, it's going to put more tension on that bolt. So let me lift up on it a little bit. Now, there we go. I feel like The bolt is now loose. It's actually a really short one. So now, before this does fall out of place, I want to keep a good kind of grip on it, and sometimes it does get a little stuck up here in the top, so I might actually get a little pry bar and kind of stick down in here and try to pry it against the body. Alright, so now we can come right here. I'm just going to give it a little bit of pressure to be able to release it from the grip that it's in. Do want to keep holding on to this just so it doesn't drop. Alright, I'm going to grab this little top handle. There we go, just like that, the alternator is out. Alright, so now that we have the alternator out, we can see in here a lot better. So let's go ahead and slide the belt off of the other pulleys here. Actually, I'm just going to push it all the way down so it's not in the way. There we go. And what we're going to do is remove the water pump right here. So there's going to be 3 bolts on this left side to remove that. And that'll also be a 10 millimeter. So you're going to have to probably use a smaller socket. This is one of the tools that you can get to remove the tensioner because it does get right in here nice and tight. You can put sockets on that and it makes it really narrow. So now I'll be able to get right in here and hook onto these. And then kind of spin it around a little bit to get the grip you need. And then you're going to have to hold it in place. Sometimes you can actually use like either a screwdriver or a pry tool like I was just using. You can use like the tool to get down in between one of the other bolts and the center part and then be able to hold it in place while you loosen that. So I just loosened one bolt. And I would say before you actually pull out the bolts completely, I'll just leave them in place until you can loosen all of them. So you can be able to hook onto those other bolts in order to get some leverage to loosen the others. There we go. Now this one's loose. Hook on to this next one. Alright, so now we have all 3 loose. We should be able to go in there and remove them all by hand. And if not, then you can just go in there with the socket, which in my case, once I was able to loosen them, it was nice and easy to at least unscrew a couple of these. And for the final screw. Once you pull this off, be careful because the part's probably going to fall. Alright, so sitting barely in place. Let's go ahead and wiggle that right off, and just like that, we got that pulley off. And now we can get to the tensioner bolts. Alright, so one of the bolts to the tensioners is actually sitting right here. I don't know if you can see that. And then there's like the little piston looking thing right here. So that is one of the bolts. And then it does go underneath kind of where this pulley is. There's a hinge bolt up under here, which we're going to have to actually get to from the wheel well. So make sure you pull off your wheel because you're definitely going to need to get that access up inside. And then obviously it does come all the way up to up here. So once we remove the bolt down below, I'm going to do that first before I remove this bolt, just so that the whole thing doesn't just all come crashing out. Alright, so then once you're in the wheel well, my car was actually missing a piece of the cover right here. So there's going to be a little tab right there, and you can pull the whole thing down and kind of shove it under the car to get up out of the way. And then right there is actually the Allen key that we're going to be removing, because this whole piece right here, which does continue up, and there's like that little piston piece where the other bolt is attached to on the end. So we're going to remove this one, which is like a pivoting bolt. So let's go ahead and set this camera down in place. And we are going to have to use some extensions in order to get up in there, because what I like to use is these little kind of Allen wrench socket things, and then we can go ahead and grab the one we need, which for this is going to be the HW8, or I guess if you have a Allen set, it'll just be like the 8 one. So then we're going to use a little extension on our wrench. So then we can get this right up into place, and it actually is at an angle, so I'm going to use a little pivoting one as well, which this is what that looks like. So now we'll be able to get into like the tight little crevices. So let's get that right up into place. There we go, and luckily I have the extension handle so I can get a little bit better leverage on this. And I've heard these are actually pretty snug. There we go. Alright, so now that I have it loose, I went ahead and just pulled off the wrench. I'm just going to unscrew this by hand, because once you get that initial kind of pop, the rest of it is hand tight. So let me just go ahead, spin this. As you can see, it's coming out right there. Go up in here and pull this out. There we go. So that is the bolt right there. I think it's huge. And obviously it has an Allen wrench end on it right there. So we're going to set this aside. And I don't know if you saw, the tensioner did kind of pop out of place. So what we're going to do is go ahead and go to the top side and pull out that bolt up on top. Alright, so now let's go in here with a 12mm, hook onto that bolt right there. There we go. Now we got that loose. It should just be like the others where it's, yeah, there we go. Pretty much hand tight after that. Let's go in here and just unscrew this. And then this is the final bolt holding the tensioner in place. So I'm going to use my other hand to just kind of support it from up above. There we go. Now I got that bolt out. I can slide this out and around. It's going to go underneath where that pulley was that we took off. And then rotate it up and around through. And there it is. And that looks, looks horrible compared to the new one. Let's do a little side by side on that. Alright, so this is the old part and the new one. This is where that broke off right there, which is pretty crazy. It actually shattered. You can see there's like multiple pieces missing, especially when I hold that up. So yeah, and obviously the new one is nice and intact. I did notice that this spins very freely, and this one spins nice and smooth, but it doesn't like keep a spin. So I would assume that this is probably worn out since it just spins so loosely. So yeah, it'd be nice to be able to get the new one put in. So let's go ahead, grab this, head back over to the car and get this put back in place. And I'm actually going to start with kind of fitting it down in there and putting in that bolt right there in the end first, and then be able to swing it into place and get that pivot bolt in. I'm not going to tighten this one all the way first. I'm going to leave it like a little loose, just enough to kind of hold it in place for now before I go in and add this one down here. Alright, so now we've got the new tensioner. I'm going to work it down in here. I'm going to do the small portion and kind of wrap it around. Now it's just kind of sitting in place. I'm going to take that bolt and just kind of put it in hand tight up here in this top piece, just so at least it can hold it in place, while we then go on the underside and we can put that other bolt in that uses the Allen wrench. Alright, so I'm going to take this, kind of push it back because it's kind of falling forward a little bit since it's not all the way tight up above. I'm going to put the bolt in, slide the whole thing back, and then start doing it hand tight. Now I'm in place, so I can go ahead and start tightening this. Alright, so I'm just going to tighten this by hand until I get all the way to the point where I'm going to need the wrench. And now I can hook this right here on the end and go ahead and start tightening it down the rest of the way. Alright, so now that we have that bolt tightened down there, we're going to go back into the top. I'm going to tighten down this bolt right here, and then this will be good to go, and then we can go ahead and start putting the alternator back in. Alright, so we have that bottom bolt put in all the way. I did come back up to the top. I tightened this bolt right here, so now we can go ahead and put on the water pump pulley. And then after we do the pulley, we can do the alternator. And the pulley, just remember there's those 3 bolts. I would say put them hand tight first. And then once you do that, you can use like a little pry tool to then kind of wedge in between the other bolts to be able to tighten the other ones and make them nice and snug. Alright, so once you get the bolts put in, I'm going to get that first one put in, just do it as hand tight as I can. And then we're going to spin the whole thing and we're going to go ahead and put the other ones in. Alright, so all 3 of those are as tight as I can get them. Let's go ahead and take our little tool here, hop on to those bolts. Go. Keep that wedge in there. You could probably even use a screwdriver for this as well. Alright, so now we got all 3 of those bolts in place. Now you can see that it spins nice and freely as well as... So now the next step is to get the alternator put in. Alright, and since the alternator does hang on the top bolt, for this I'm actually going to get that one put in first. So let me wiggle this into place here. And then at this point, you just gotta wiggle it around until you can, there we go, get the holes lined up properly. And now same thing as everything else, just kind of do it hand tight. And now I'm gonna reach down in and get the bottom bolt put into place. I'm gonna use the socket to kind of get that better reach. Alright, so we just have to tighten down the bottom bolt, which it is tight right there. And now we can go ahead and work on the top bolts. This is a little snug, so let me see if I can get that in a little bit further with my hand first. Alright, now the top bolt is nice and snug. We can go on to getting all the plugs put back in place. So now we just need to go in, hook onto the tensioner, loosen the tension, and get the belt put back through. right here on the screen is actually the diagram of how you're going to feed the serpentine belt kind of in and around the pulleys. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. All right, so now we are done with that, and once you're done, make sure you do reconnect the battery. I have another project I'm about to work on, so I'm not going to go ahead and do that right now in this video. So if you guys like this video, go down and hit the like button down below. If it helped you guys out, let me know. Also, if you have any other questions, put those in the comments, because I do go through and read those. This video does serve as a alternator replacement video as well. So if you guys do need the link for that, I'm also going to include that in the description, as well as all the other parts, including the tensioner and some of the other tools I used. But also, I have a lot more videos coming for this car, and this video is going to be in a playlist of those, so definitely go check that out. All that should be down in the description down below. But if you guys like the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. But as always, thank you for watching.